All right, everyone. 10,000 more employees are being laid off at the Department of Health and Human Services, and the number of actual sub-agencies is being compacted significantly, reduced by almost half. This is a good move um, because right now people seem to think, for example, if DHHS shrinks, that it means that people have shitty health care. I mean, most people already do anyway, so it doesn't really make a big difference for the average person, even if that were true. What they don't realize is that bureaucracy actually does not increase efficiency past a certain point. If you have a handful of bureaucrats, then you can streamline things, keep people more legally accountable. You can make things more efficient. You can innovate more easily and protect consumers and protect patients and so forth. That's great. When the bureaucracy is established, though, oftentimes it's given very broad purview, and Congress just gives it all the money that it possibly wants, budget after budget, and it keeps growing and growing and growing. And it grows ahead of actual economic growth. So it's gobbling down more and more of the actual money and resources and employing more and more people doing nothing, pushing papers around on a desk, going to the water cooler, chatting with their coworker in the next cubicle, and then they go home. Well, these people are certainly not essential workers, although that's the kind of worker that typically is classed as essential. Meanwhile, the people that are doing the actual labor and producing something, potentially doing a good job, they get shit on. This is the way that the DC and state houses all around the country have worked for a very long time. Just like the Department of Education has not made our educational attainment any greater, in fact, it's going in the opposite direction, DHHS has not created an atmosphere in which healthcare is becoming better or more affordable or anything like that within the United States. You can say the same about basically every bureau. The FBI doesn't appear to be making us safer. Anytime that somebody stages a major terrorist attack, we're aware of the fact that the FBI was aware of them. Meanwhile, the FBI will gladly toss a flashbang into a toddler's crib, scarring them for life. So these bureaus have grown out of control. What the American people, in some cases, don't realize is that you could probably slash half of the federal workforce. The other day, I think it was Shank complaining about this big surprise there. Oh my God, they're putting tens of thousands of honest, hardworking Americans out of a job. I'm sure that they can find something in the private sector. They are not owed their job. It's just like with teachers, uh, people on the left especially, but some people in general will say like, well, teachers, they teach your kids and stuff, so we need to pay them more, and we need more of them. And by the way, don't fire that crappy teacher that literally has to sit in the teacher's lounge all day watching TV because they don't even have a classroom to go and teach him. This has actually happened before because of unionization, teachers' unions. You have teachers that underperform, or you have teachers that aren't even allowed to perform but are still getting paid for it. And that's nonsensical. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. Um, the DHHS now will be at least marginally more efficient. By the way, I think there were about 10,000 people that voluntarily decided to leave their positions already. They were making cuts. Some people decided to just take the money and run, so to speak. And now you'll see it's not going to have a negative impact on the healthcare industry. If anything, it might have a marginally positive effect and will be saving money. I don't see the problem here. Again, like if you were to cut half of the bureaucrats of the Department of Education, the educational attainment would probably rise. If you gave it generally back to the states. Now, would it be even? No. Do you still need a core bureaucracy in order to oversee the basic principle of having some degree of evenness between the state's educational attainment or healthcare systems or anything like that? Yes, you do. You have to have that centralized organizational capacity, but it doesn't need to be anywhere near as large as it is. There are a lot of bureaucrats in the United States, and keep in mind, when we look at the federal workforce, you also have to add to that state bureaucracies. I've pointed out for a number of years, Most of the laws and regulations and stuff that you labor under really are state and municipal more than anything else. That's where it tends to be. It's not actual federal law at all. The federal government creates a bureau, or it's bureaucratic. Federal government incepts a bureau. Then it pumps it full of steroids year over year, and it keeps growing and growing and growing. And eventually, what was once a little puppy dog is now a 200-pound bull mastiff. And it slips its leash, and then it runs haywire, and it hurts your economy. The fact is, the bureaucracy is simply bloated. Ronald Reagan's the last president to understand this. Of course, he had a different approach. Reagan froze new spending for a while and allowed private economic growth to catch up, which is fine. But at the same time, at this point, it's become so bloated, it's no longer possible to simply freeze frame it for a few years, let the private economy catch up because it's growing sluggishly anyway. I have a feeling it'll grow more quickly under Trump, but Bidenomics has done a lot of damage, and he created a bunch of more bureaucrats. You need to axe all of them. I think you could probably safely fire 500,000 people from the federal workforce. I don't think that you'd see any service disruptions whatsoever. You could probably axe several of the bureaus outright. The Department of Education comes to mind because these people aren't teaching your kids. They're effectively nothing more than paper pushers for the most part. Effectively, it's a bunch of paperwork. Do you need, again, that core bureaucracy? Yes, it can be significantly shrunk, significantly compacted, needs to field about half as many people as it currently does, and some of those bureaus are vestigial. They no longer matter. They shouldn't exist at all. That's about all. Peace out.